Which endocrine disruptors are in our water, and what is the harm? A presentation by Annie McGrew, Morgan Melati, David Patterson, and Michael Zhao. What are endocrine disruptors? An endocrine disruptor is a substance, either natural or synthetic, which through environmental or inappropriate exposures alters the hormonal and homeostatic systems that enable an organism to communicate and respond to its environment. But what does that mean? It means that chemicals, mostly man-made, are finding their way into our water supply, harming not only the environment, but harming us as well. Unfortunately, not many regulations have been put into place to control the use of these endocrine disruptors. Although very recently, more pressure is being put on political bodies to control these substances. For example, Dr. Linda Birnbaum, an expert in endocrine disruptors, has done just that. Dr. Birnbaum recently gave a powerful testimony in front of the House of Representatives about the current knowledge of the effects of endocrine disruptors. In her speech, she emphasized 4 things. Her first concern, the effect of low doses. Small doses of hormones have large impacts on our system, so taking in any extra hormone or hormone-like substance can have a much more magnified effect. Her second concern, the wide range of effects. Because endocrine signals control almost every organ in our body, the symptoms of endocrine disruption can come in many different forms, symptoms we are only beginning to recognize. Her third concern, the persistence of effects. It has been discovered that effects of endocrine disruptors can be seen long after the exposure happened, especially in growth and development. Her fourth concern, the ubiquity of exposure. From hormones and pharmaceuticals being passed into the water, to fertilizers seeping into our lakes and streams, endocrine disruptors are everywhere in our environment, making it even harder to avoid them. So maybe there is some harm after all. Looking at these 4 points together, it is apparent that endocrine disruption is an important emerging public health concern. More research is currently being done to examine exactly how much of an effect these endocrine disruptors are having.
Which EDCs are most commonly found in water? Triclosan and perchlorate are both EDCs linked with affecting the thyroid gland. According to a study in 2005, the EDC perchlorate contaminates the drinking water of approximately 40.8 million people in the U.S. Phthalates are EDCs that are present in air fresheners, plastic toys, cosmetics, and personal care products, vinyl medical devices, food additives, and pesticides. Phthalates are related to issues regarding androgen and progesterone receptors. Steroid hormones such as estriol are present in the environment due to use on livestock. It is associated with a wide range of hormonal receptors, including those affecting the production of estrogen, androgen, and progesterone.
Data and results. Evidence for the migration of steroidal estrogens through riverbed sediments. New research has confirmed that estrogenic contaminants can contaminate groundwater after being carried by sewage into rivers. A study was done at 2 sites on the River Ouse in the UK, 200 meters downstream of the waste treatment plant. Scientists took 4 sediment cores and tested the estrone, estradiol, and ethanol estradiol levels present at each depth of the soil to see whether or not the streams were carrying hormones from the waste plant and whether or not these hormones were penetrating the soil. Estrone levels were 28.8 parts per billion between 10 and 18 centimeters below ground, about 9 times higher than the surface sediment concentration of approximately 3.3 parts per billion. Sex hormones estrone and estradiol were present both in the water and soil. USGS study Lake Mead, Nevada, 1995. 2 contaminated sites, Las Vegas Wash and Las Vegas Bay, and a reference site, Colville Bay, were used to determine if endocrine disruption was present in the lake's carp population. Organochlorine compounds, dioxins, and furans were present in high concentrations in both the soil and water of the contaminated sites and were absent from the reference site. Reduced sex hormone levels in the carp blood samples were present at the contaminated site but not the reference site.
How is this information related to us? The marine wildlife is illustrating to us firsthand the variety of effects endocrine disruptors can have. They are relevant because all vertebrates are significantly similar during embryonic development, giving scientists a lead on making predictions of disruptors' effects on humans. Therefore, we may justify that the same effects can happen to us. Just like hormones, a variety of endocrine disruptors can have the same aspect of effect on physiology. Differences in sexual features were greatly noticeable. The carp in the two contamination sites were exposed to high concentrations of organochlorine compounds, dioxins, and furans. We know that sex-related hormones affect sex-specific characteristics in humans, but this is also so in fish. Levels of testosterone and estrogen levels altered, but ultimately the production of vitellogenin, which is the egg yolk proteins produced by females, was increased by 80 to 100% in males. The outset of feminine exclusive proteins sparked intersexual development in males. Our ecosystem is fundamentally dynamic. Just because the disruptors have seeped through the ground does not mean they are quarantined. They will disperse through the ground, be absorbed by plants, and transferred through consumers. We should not take for granted that low concentrations of disruptors mean no harm will come. High concentrations may provoke the body's defenses and activate cell death in those afflicted, which means they will thrive higher in small amounts. We, just like many fish and amphibians, also spend time in water. Swimming is permitted in various ponds and brooks across the country, but only when they are considered not contaminated. Contamination levels, however, are relative. If there are much more uncontaminated water than contaminated water, it will be considered safe overall and you will be allowed to swim. You will have minimal chance to contract pollutants. However, if many people are present in that supposedly safe body of water, there is an increased chance of someone in that population overall to be affected. This means that controlling the number afflicted by endocrine disruptors necessarily means having an extent of control over the people themselves. This ties back into the fact that we are the ones who use drugs down the drain, but we are the part of the life that is affected by them as well.